Good evening. I'm going to call this May 28th, 2019 regular meeting of the City of Coolidge City Council to order. Well, I don't think anybody's here to give the invocation tonight, so will I ask that we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Norma, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Jimmy Walker.
Here.
Councilmember Tina Kaufman.
Here.
Councilmember Steve Hudson.
Here.
Mayor John Thompson.
Here.
Vice Mayor Jackie Henry.
Here.
Councilmember Ben Navarro.
Here.
And Councilmember Tatiana Murrieta. Here. Thank you. We have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you, Norma. Under presentations, item number 4, 2018 Arizona Transportation Partnering Excellence Award for the Main Street Project, Coolidge Avenue to Pinkley Avenue project. I would point out, who's got that one? Do you? I would point out that we got it after we had the Central Avenue disaster with ADOT, and that didn't go over very well. I see Irene Higgs back there with Sun Corridor MPO, who was a mediator quite often, more often than not, for us in that project when we were going back and forth with ADOT and the contractor. So I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, recently at a small area transportation conference, City of Coolidge and several other partners were recognized with an award. And tonight I would like to introduce Charles Birch with Nesbitt Contracting. They were the lead contractor on this project, the Main Street project, between Coolidge Avenue and Pinkley and the part of Central right here in front of the City Hall. As you said, what a remarkable difference that this project was as compared to the one on Central. We just had a number of problems, and I think this partnering effort that ADOT encourages was completely made for a completely different project and outcome. So with that, I'd like to introduce Charles, and he's got the award that he'd like to present, and would have him probably recognize all the partners that made this project so successful that led to this award. Yes, thanks, Charles.
And I do have to say what a real pleasure it was to work with every single person on this project. I've never seen, I've had partnering before on projects, but not when every player was on board for making this a successful job. And it really took everybody on a daily, hourly basis to make it work. We had some unique challenges with, just because the way the town was built, different floor elevations, trying to meet ADA regulations, complying to ADA challenges, and it took really Matt, Frank, Terry, it took everybody all the time. And I got to tell you, Matt being available at a moment's notice. Matt, we're in a situation here. There's also Steve Spear that was part of that. We had a great subcontractor for the concrete work too, Red Concrete, but Frank and Red worked hand in hand together. Literally, I'll just give you an example of what it took to build it. You would have to put the curb in per plan, then they would take, we left that little 8-inch piece of concrete existing so we wouldn't damage the buildings. Then they'd have to come through with a smart level, check all the grades to make sure we were compliant. There's areas where we weren't, and they would have to adjust all the forms, regrade anyway, just every day there was something. And then Frank, we kind of made a judgment that if it was a tenth and a half or below, we would handle it out in the field. If it became over a tenth and a half, it would go up to Steve and Matt and of course Aziz. But it really was, and the slotted drain, the pipe contractor, just everybody up and down the lines worked together. And the focus really was just getting a good job done. There was never any egos. There was never any, it's not my job. It was, and not having to go back to the design engineer every time you ran across something that that wasn't the way it was on the plans. I mean, it was handled by the experience of the people that were part of this project, and it made it be able to be completed in a timely manner. You know, we'd still be working on it if we had to go back to the engineer for all the different changes. So I hope you're happy with it, because doggone it, we sure are. And it took a lot of people caring and wanting things to happen the right way to get it done. And it did, and we submitted that to Arizona Department of Transportation. They agreed with us, and they awarded us a partnering award. And we're all, I mean, again, I've been doing this for a long time, and this project here, and everybody, Rick, every single person that we dealt with, was a pleasure to deal with. And again, the focus was not on anything else but getting the job done right and where it was workable. And I guess I'm going to back up to just the flooding issues that you've had before, and I'm assuming now you don't have them anymore, thank God. And so it really, really came out nice. So, and anyway, so ADOT recognized the partnering, and here's the award.
Thank you very much.
Gosh, thank you
Let me
guys.
tell you something, we were really up a creek with the ones that came before you.
That's what I heard, but again, it was just everybody, it took everybody, and everybody participated and contributed, and it was a real joy. It was a real
You
joy.
guys did a good job, and we really appreciate it. And it hasn't flooded. Is that your, if that's your wife with you, you better watch out.
Well, this is Rhonda with APS, and she was also key in making sure everything happened. I mean, there wasn't, I'm not naming everybody off, but it really was. Everybody was part of this project, just focused on getting the job done. And really, Rhonda was key also, staying on top of as things changed. You know, APS has tight schedules. They're not really change friendly, but she made sure that they worked. You know, I mean, she stayed on top of it, said, hey, if you guys are going to do this, we need to be here, and she did a great job of making sure we stayed on schedule. And I can't tell her thank you enough, because she was truly a joy and another key part of this project.
Well, thank you. You guys really did a good job. I'll get back up one more hand, please.
There we go. Thank you.
Okay. Now we'll move into call to the public. This is the portion of the meeting where if you want to address the council, please come up and state your name and where you reside. And you have up to 3 minutes to address the council. If you're going to speak to an item that is on the agenda later on, you may want to wait until that item is called out. But go ahead and come on up. I see we have our first participant.
Mayor Thompson, Vice Mayor Henry, council members, Gilbert Lopez, Director of Economic Development, Development Services, and Transit. I just wanted to let everyone know that tomorrow evening at 5:30 we're having a Census 2020 meeting. Mayor has invited the citizens of Coolidge to come out and attend. It's an informational meeting about the importance of the census. It's coming up April, I believe, is 2020. So the meeting is tomorrow night, the 29th at 5:30 here in the council chambers. And it's really important because the value of everyone counted is 1,979 and per person. So that's really important that we capture everybody in the city. That means federal money and state money and all those kind of monies that come to us. So we invite all the citizens, and of course mayor and council are welcome. It's been posted if you decide to show up, so there's no issue with quorum. So we welcome all the participation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Joyce Baker, Library Manager, and I don't want to take up much of your time. But after months of working with NASA, we have an exciting announcement with little time to share the news. Our summer reading kickoff party is tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock in the Youth Center. Normally, this would be an event that would mainly appeal to children and families, but this year is an exception. We just received notice on Friday that we are going to get on loan from NASA actual lunar and meteor samples that were collected during 6 different Apollo missions. They're in-house. We have them. We're not going to not get them in time. We received them yesterday. There are only a handful of library staff members throughout the country who are authorized to handle these samples. And our library assistant, Danny Duran, is one of those few. She went to NASA in Houston several years ago for training and received the lifetime certification to be able to handle these meteorite and lunar samples. She, along with the Coolidge Police Security Detail, will share these samples with the community at tomorrow's kickoff party. Maybe you're an adult who remembers the moon landing, or someone just fascinated with the universe. Don't let the kids have all the fun. Stop by the Coolidge Youth Center at 660 South Main between 2 and 4 p.m. tomorrow to get your own hands-on experience with these samples. By the way, the library is also walking to the moon this summer. Keep track of your steps and stop into the library to record them. We will have a chart to see how close all the residents of Coolidge can get to the moon. The library has a limited supply of pedometers if you need to borrow one. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wants to participate and call the public? All right, seeing no one approach, we will move out a call to the public. And we have some public hearings. So moving to public hearings. Item number 5, to receive public comments on land use assumptions, LU, infrastructure improvements plan, IIP, and development fee report regarding the update of the city's development fees. All right, this is a public hearing.
Mayor Thompson, Vice Mayor Henry, council members. City staff's been working with Carson Bice of the firm Tischler Bice to document the land use assumptions, prepare an infrastructure improvement plan, and also update the city's development fees. And pursuant to ARS statutes, we have to go through quite a few steps to do that. A public hearing is required as one of the steps in updating the city's development fees. Those are very important because it's the fees we charge to developers and new housing construction and everything for them to pay their own way through, but we want to be reasonable in the cost, so we look at those very closely and bring you all the alternatives so you can do it. So this is a public hearing for that purpose, and it's to receive public comment on the land use assumptions and all the things I spoke about that were published on the city's website, and there's a timeline for adopting these fees if you choose to adopt them in the City Council. And so what I want to do really quickly is just go through a short PowerPoint and see if I can make this work. Okay, so we want to start with just give you an idea. These are single-family residential impact fees, and this is what a home builder would pay at the current rate, which is $6,380 per unit as they come in. And this shows you a breakdown a little bit of what the library fees are, parks, police, fire, and streets. And that's the current fee that was adopted. We have to remember at 80% of the defendable rate. So the actual defendable rate at the time, this was in 2014, was $7,976 per unit. So at that time, council decided to adopt them at 80% of that rate. So that's why they're set at 6,380. $6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380. 6,380 So this is a proposed impact fee that's going. If you notice, library, police were zeroed out at this point. Not that they're not important, but so the houses, what we have to do when we look at impact fees is if we collect money for them, we have to put in the plan what we're going to do with that. If we're going to put in additional library, another one, if we're going to put in additional police stations, you can't use the money to support existing uses that are already in the city. So looking at that, we have an opportunity also to change this in 5 years if something changes and we grow so fast that we need to add those things. But for right now, in order to keep them low, in the study, Carson looked at that, and what they did is they adjusted those and put parks in, fire, and streets, and then, of course, our wastewater. So the fee that's proposed at this point is $6,902 per unit. So it's a slight increase of what we have now, where a lot of the, I think, the higher increases in the wastewater area. And because costs have gone up, we've adopted them at the lower fee, and so all that's in the report that's online. And so it shows basically on the residential it's going up 8% if we from the proposed to the existing if we choose to do that. And this is a comparison real quick with other communities, Casa Grande, and if you notice these are proposed. So Casa Grande proposes a $9,941 impact fee per unit. Florence is $9,357. Pinal County's existing on the northern area is $9,214 per unit. Our proposed in Coolidge is the $6,902 that we talked about. This just really quickly gives you an idea. This is in the report, but it shows you in comparison, if you look at the right, of what the percentage of changes are. If you notice if you look at just single family units without looking at the wastewater impact fee, it only went up 1%, and in the proposal. Multifamily goes up a little higher, but where you notice a big change, it's a drop, is in the industrial, commercial, and office. As you know, in economic development, we're trying to attract companies, and we have attracted companies in Nikola and some others that we've been working really hard, the mayor, Rick, myself, and the rest of the team, to attract. So this is important for economic development purposes, and so that's just gives you a quick difference of the fees. And on the bottom, it shows you what the wastewater impact fee is. And as you know, wastewater treatment is expensive, so we have to cover that. So this fee is based on, in the study, of what it would cost to continue to meet those demands on the wastewater system. And so that's why we have it that way. This is just a quick timeline of where we are. Right now, we're on Tuesday, May 28th, with the public hearing. And this is so you can look at that and let the public know, and so the public can comment on it. And we go through all those different steps. We have another public hearing that's going to happen, if everything is to the timeline, on August 26th. And then eventually, if everything stays on the timeline, it'll be January 1st of 2020 when the new impact fees are effective. So it's quite a process to get them adopted and go through all that process. So. And I wonder if you have any questions that we can answer. Now, a lot of it's in the big report. It's fairly large. So, but if you have some questions I can answer, we can, between city manager, myself, and maybe Tim Hansen, we'll do our best.
I gave Rick a letter. I went through them today. The only question I have, and they don't have much to go on. We haven't had many. We've discussed it many times. The new house permits over the last 4 years haven't been jumping off the charts.
Yes.
But now this year, so far, they seem to be doing pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be able to adjust, because I see based on you could put the new housing permits for the last 4 years together, and we've already beat them this year in 1 year. So if it continues to roll even half as well as we have, we're going to probably do more than what they've predicted in this study. So in 5 years, we'll be able, who's ever here will be able to adjust, the rates to accommodate that.
Yes, Mayor, we can revisit that and bring it back to the council mayor and council to look at those fees if it looks like they need to be adjusted at that time. So we can add things that we didn't put in right now or adjust any way we need to.
Because I know the legislature jumps in and messes with the formulas and the things that you can do with impact fees and can't do with impact fees and how they can be applied and the formulas and we really don't know what that's going to be like in 5 years. But you know, even our recreation fees, would I figure it out? It would be $739. So really, we'd have $73,900 a year. But when you look at just like the estimate on the swimming pool, which we'll hear about a little later, which we have a rough idea of what we're looking at just for a pool. When you look at $739,000 over a 10-year period, that's not a whole lot of money for recreation. If you're adding, you know, at 2.7 people a household for 100 households, even that's a lot of, you know, more people for not very much cash when it's going to be $3.5 billion just for a pool and without the road.
Well, Mayor, in that case, what we would do normally is as part of the PAD, the development agreement, they have to put in the recreational amenities for the people they're bringing in. So they'll probably be supported and taken care of by the HOAs, but part of the process requires that they provide amenities such as parks and open space to the residents that are in that new facility. So that's why the impact fee can only be used on new development. We can't use any of the impact fees on existing services. So we couldn't take the impact fees and put them in the pool because the pool serves our local population right now. So that wouldn't work. Somebody would probably end up suing us if we did that. And you're right, every year the legislature and some others that have stakeholders challenges the cities on how they use that money or limit it, you know, so they look at it very closely. So we try to make sure that we stay within the regulations and the ARS statutes with these. So that's part of the process and why we use Tishler Weiss, because they're so good at what they do. I don't believe they've ever lost a case in court on the process, as far as I know.
I can understand why they estimate low on their estimates. And when we didn't have much to bring to the table, but I think it's going to increase. But I'm glad that every 5 years you can readjust. That was my point. And I think we know a lot more than when we first had our first meeting on impact fees. And you were here for that. You were on the council then. We know a lot more than we knew. We do it a lot differently if we had to do it over. But I just think that, especially now that even in the roads, with ADOT's projects going up, about 30% now for everything that got bid a year ago and is just coming to fruition, they're charging about 30% more for the project. So
Right.
Everything needs an override now. So it's going to be the same thing with these type of projects. So I think it's going to be a whole different ballgame, but that's why we need to stay on top of things. So, but there's a long ways to go still with this, isn't there?
Yes. So, Mayor, at this point, we recommend that the Mayor and Council hold a public hearing and receive public comment proposing these fees.
Okay. Is there anybody here that would like to make any comments regarding this proposal, item number 5 on the agenda? We're here to receive public comments on the land use assumptions, infrastructure improvement plan, and development fee report regarding the update of the city's development fees. I don't see anybody rushing forward. Okay, how about here? Anybody up here want to?
I have no question. No.
Mr. Navarro, it's not like you to. Okay. Well, if nobody's got any comments, then I guess I need to get out of this public hearing and move on to the next one. Okay, so I'm going to get out of this public hearing and move into item number 6, which is a public hearing to receive public comments on portions of land located in Section 31, Township 6 South, Range 8 East of the Gila and Salt River Basin Meridian, of Pinal County, Arizona, known as the Selma 73 annexation. This is a public hearing, and Mr. Lopez, you will start it off. Welcome again.
Mayor Thompson, Vice Mayor Henry, council members. City staff recorded a blank petition to annex approximately 76.9 acres on May 1st, 2019, the Pinal County Recorder's Office. The annexation, as you described, Mayor, is north side of Selma Highway between Sunshine Boulevard and Love Corner Road. We're required to have the public hearing the last 10 days of the 30-day waiting period, which we're doing at this point. And it also requires us to send written notice to the chairman of the Board of Supervisors, the Pinal County Clerk's Office, and Department of Revenue. And all the owners of the proposed annexation also were notified. And we also posted the hearing signs in at least 3 locations throughout the property to be annexed. So all these things were satisfied. This is a one-owner annexation. It requires just from the current owner. And if successful, this would not include any roads that the city has to maintain and add to its maintenance inventory. So this wouldn't do that. An advertisement for the public hearing was published in the Coolidge Examiner on Wednesday, May 15th. And city staff is here to answer any questions or any questions of mayor and council or the public. Also have Tim Hansen here, and he's our annexation expert along with Rick, city manager. So, and recommend the mayor and council hold a public hearing to receive public comment on the Selma 73 annexation.
Mr. Lopez, this is just about the land. It's not anything about what's could or couldn't be on the land. It's just the land only.
Mayor Thompson, Vice Mayor Henry, council members, that's exactly right. The process of what to do with the land goes through a different process, through planning and zoning, and this is just strictly annexation to come into the city of Coolidge.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody here that wants to address this issue? And it looks like this is almost an 80-acre parcel piece.
Yes, Mayor. 76.9, about 80 acres.
See, it was acquired, then it was a treasurer's deed at one time, and now it's been rolled over a few times, but yeah, okay. Anybody have anything they want to add up here, over here? No. Anybody in the public want to make any comments regarding this annexation, the Selma 73 annexation?
Mayor, this gives you a little better idea of where it is located approximately.
It borders Selma Highway.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Seeing nobody approach, do you have anything else, Mr. Lopez? Go ahead. Do you want to show anything else? Oh, there it is. Okay.
Just shows you the approximate location in regards to the city property. It's currently annexed property, so it's right on the edge of the northern boundaries along Selma Highway.
And are all the X's, all the property with X's, I can't see, where's the key? It's already existing city limits, okay. All right. Don't appear to be creating any county islands, so, okay. All right, nobody has anything further. Are you good to go, Gil?
Yes.
Okay. All right, then I'm going to move out of this public hearing and move into item number 7, which is another public hearing, to receive public comments on portions of land located in Section 6 and 7, Township 7 South, Range 8 East of the Gila and Salt River Basin Meridian of Pinal County, Arizona, known as the Ulmer annexation. This is a public hearing. Mr. Lopez will start off, and then if anybody has any comments and wants to address the council, you'll have your turn after Mr. Lopez.
Mayor Thompson, Vice Mayor Henry, council members, again, this is an annexation. This is actually south of the property we just discussed, still connected to existing city limits as it has to be, but the city recorded a blank petition, and this is 239.3 acres, also recorded on May 1st, 2019. All the proper entities were notified within Pinal County, and annexation is taking place within the required 30-day comment period. The 3 locations, the hearing signs were posted as required. All these were met. And so this is a one-owner annexation also, and it requires just the owner of record for signature. And this would bring in .8 paved miles on Corman Road. So it's a very minor amount that would come in under the maintenance area of the city. This was also advertised on May 15th of the Coolidge Examiner, and staff is here to answer any questions. We recommend the mayor and council hold a public hearing and receive comment on the proposed Ulmer annexation.
Did this one have 6 parcels or so, Gil?
I believe it's, yes, altogether there is.
Yeah. Same 2 guys owned it, though. It was under the same. Yeah, it
Yes.
was on the 10, yeah. Okay. That's what I thought. So technically, it's a one owner, but, okay.
Correct.
It's not creating any county islands or anything with that? No, we're good. They can get in and out.
Yep.
Okay,
Mayor, it meets the requirements for
yeah.
how long
Thank
portions
you.
of it connects to the existing city limits. There are no islands that I can see on this at this point, not by the annexing city.
Anybody have any questions up here? Mr. Navarro?
Well, you know I do. No, I really have no issue with this. It's just that they're taking in a little bit more road, and like I said last time, it's the maintenance of it. It's not much, so it's what's a little bit more. It's just in the future, we're doing a little bit more annexing, and I'm sure we're going to do a little bit more. I know in this budget, there's no plans to hire another maintenance worker for Public Works, but I'm thinking with the more road and the more spread out we get, that maybe we ought to start looking into that, and maybe some kind of transportation equipment too, to get the equipment out there, so the guys can perform their work a little bit easier.
Does anybody from the public have any comments they want to make regarding the Ulmer annexation? No? Okay, not seeing anybody approach. Then we will move out of this public hearing and move out of the public hearings. Okay, we'll move into the business items for consent. Does anybody up here want me to pull any items off of the consent agenda for individual consideration?
I think,
Okay. All right, then we'll pull item 11. Thank you, Mr. Fitzgibbons. And how about 8, 9, or 10? Are we good with those?
Yeah.
All right, item 8. Consider approval of entering into a cooperative purchasing agreement between the City of Coolidge and Cactus Asphalt LLC, utilizing the Pinal County ROQ 175923 JOC Asphalt Maintenance and Repair Services Contract for the application of a chip seal for the street work program at a that's supposed to be the cost not to exceed $35,000 plus applicable tax, and authorizing the mayor to execute the necessary documents. Item 9, approval of opening a money market account with BBVA Compass and authorizing the mayor and city manager to sign the necessary documents. Item number 10, approval of opening a money market fund with PFM and authorizing the mayor and city manager to execute the necessary documents. Okay,
question?
there's no questions.
Mayor, if there's no further discussion, I make a motion we approve consent agenda items 8, 9, and 10 as read.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Item 11, consider approval of the claims for the month of April 2019. Mr. Fitzgibbons, it appears there are no claims attached to this. Can I get a
So moved.
Second.
motion and a second to table item number 11 on the agenda? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Okay, I guess we'll pay our bills next time. I'm sure that'll make us popular throughout the land. Oh, good, the lady from APS left, so we're okay. We're clear. Okay.
Make sure we make that health insurance.
Yeah, I know it. The chief's not here. Commander, turn up the air. We better enjoy it while we have power. Business under regular items. Item number 12, resolution number 19-07. Resolution of the City Council of the City of Coolidge, Pinal County, Arizona, ordering and calling a special bond election to be held in and for the city on November 5th, 2019, to submit to the qualified electors thereof the question of authorizing the issuance and sale of up to $5 million principal amount general obligation bonds of the city, designating or providing for the manner in which the city clerk shall conduct the election, Spanish translation of election materials, voter registration deadline, and early voting dates and related matters. Mr. Garcia.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Ricky LaPaya and myself have come up before you in a couple study sessions. We've also been in front of the school board, as well as we had a community forum here as well to get input on whether or not the citizens would be interested, or the council would be interested as well as calling this election. It would be for issuing up to $5 million in GO bonds for the purposes of parks, open space, and recreational facilities, and related infrastructure, including, without limitation, street improvements as it relates to the aquatics facility. So tonight is the culmination of a couple meetings and input from everybody to determine whether or not you guys want to approve this resolution, to call this election and let the voters decide whether they want to implement a secondary property tax levy to build an aquatic center. We have Zach Sakis here from Sherman and Howard, as well as Nick Dodd from Piper Jaffrey, in case you have any additional questions before you vote on this item. And I'm here, as well as Brittany Chitwood from Parks and Recreation, in case you guys have any questions for us.
Okay, this is our opportunity. Does anybody have any questions?
Gabe, you said you had a couple study sessions, or the one?
We came before council with one study session, and we came with an update following our presentation before the school board to inform the council of whether or not they would be in support in entering into another IGA that would extend through the life of the new aquatic center should it be voted upon.
Okay, and then you had kind of a Q&A with the public?
Yes, we had a community forum, yes.
And what was the outcome of that?
We had about, I think there was 71 people in attendance. I believe that most of the comments were all positive. I think the thing that I took out of it was obviously we have some timing issues in terms of construction and when we can do that, when we can get in and out in terms of our summer programming, the school swim team and things like that. But those are things that will be worked out as construction, as we sit down with the construction and the engineer and things like that when you figure out how long it would actually take. But okay. Other than that, all feedback that I've heard, as well as the feedback Mr. LaPaya has shared with me, has been favorable in terms of implementing this project.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Steve.
First of all, excuse me, I'd like to commend you and Ricky. A lot of people would have put this project on their table, especially with everything else you guys have got going on. And you did a great job. I want to commend both of you on that. I never knew that the pool that we have right now is 35 years old. And trying to attract housing developments, businesses, especially like Nicola, bringing those employees in, they're going to want amenities like this. And it's good that we're putting it into the public, let them vote on it. And let them decide, because you always hear there's nothing to do in Coolidge. There's nothing to do in Coolidge. Well, you have an opportunity right now to have something to do in Coolidge. And then also, you also explain to everybody the cost of what it's going to be on the property taxes, which is very minimal on a $100,000 home. So I think you've done a great job, and let's see what the public says.
Thank you, Councilmember Hudson. And it's really a team effort. I mean, me and Ricky get to be the ones up here talking about it, but behind the scenes, it's all the Parks and Recreation staff, our staff, the city manager, and council as well for allowing us to come up here and talk about it, and the community for speaking out for it as well. So it's a team effort, but we appreciate the compliments.
You bet.
The committee that comes together to do the election, would they have the opportunity to do a similar town hall and give information again in case other citizens that weren't able to attend that meeting are able to attend, so they understand how it all works?
Councilmember Marietta and council, that would be up to them. Once we call the election, at that point, city staff can't use necessarily our facilities or our time to promote the outcome or to influence the outcome of an election. But should they choose to have a forum maybe at the school district or something like that, that they're more than welcome to do that on their own time. We can provide facts or information related to it in terms of maybe like budget or different things like that, but that would really be up to the committee at that point to kind of get that word out, because we have to kind of take a back seat, and that's kind of the purpose of this, and you guys calling this election is it becomes the people and whether they want to vote for this or not. So.
Okay, thank you.
No? Vice Mayor?
I'd just like to thank everybody that was involved.
Mr. Miller, do you have any words of wisdom that you'd like to impart upon the crowd? There's, on the advice of our attorney, there's a lot of things that I'd like to say, but I got to keep my opinions to myself. I will say this. I agree with Councilmember Hudson. I think that there's been many times that I've heard people say it, more often than not, in the modern era, you read about it or somebody tells you they read about it on social media, how there's never anything to do here. And I think this is an opportunity, if people really want to make a difference in this community, for pennies on the dollar, literally, you can do something that you can still do something now that will benefit the citizens of the community. Whether you have children here or you don't have children here, you'll have grandchildren or you'll have children eventually. Now's the time, because if you pay any attention at all to the surrounding communities and you see how things are going in some of those communities with large developments moving in, and some of them are having a lot of I don't know, communities that aren't interested in building recreation facilities for school-aged children. Those things, well, let me give you, if you look at Prescott Valley, Chino Valley, you don't see a lot of these type of facilities coming up anymore. They have a lot of people moving in from other states that have already raised their children, and they don't have any desire to participate in these type of projects and pay the money. And so now's the time, if we're going to make a move, if you think it's beneficial, then it would be worth it to put it on the ballot and see what the citizens of Coolidge want to do. That's how we got this building. At the time, our building, our police department, our city council chambers were not compliant with the ADA regulations. They were going to shut us down anyway eventually because we weren't compliant. It was embarrassing to lock somebody in our facility. It wasn't even good enough to keep prisoners, But the fact of the matter was, it was unhealthy. It was virtually against the law to put people in there. I'm not saying our pool's that way, but I was there Sunday night at a gathering. I took a pretty good walk around and looked at it. And unless you go over there and actually look, it's in pretty rough shape. And for us to think that it's going to make it a lot longer, well, go look at it. Formulate your own opinion. I know what my opinion is.
We did have a pool pump go out this
Well,
weekend. We got another one on order.
I mean,
So
if the cool duct doesn't crack and
Yeah.
the whole thing doesn't cave in. But anyway, the bottom line is it is an opportunity to you hear a lot of people, old-time people, Coolidge residents that are very loyal to this community, and it's like they're having an affair. They have to sneak off to Florence to have pool parties. You know, let's keep them home. Come on, let's keep them loyal. But anyway, I mean, the bottom line is we're giving them an opportunity. They can vote their conscience, do whatever they want to do. I think this is something that gives them an opportunity to decide they're going to do what they're going to do. We're not twisting anybody's arm. So I would like maybe, you guys to give us just a brief run through of how the process works, so people don't think that we're going to get rolled as far as finances go, that it's pretty protected, that we're not going to go belly up because we're trying to do this, the financial aspect of it. You guys have an honest face.
Mr. Mayor and Council, Nick Dodd with Piper Jaffray. It's a pleasure to be before the Council again. So the process moving forward would be staff and the attorneys and ourselves will all work to prepare the voter information pamphlet and the ballot, and then it would go to the voters this fall. If it's approved, it would come back to the council, and council would actually then have to take action when you're ready to sell the bonds. And staff could speak to the exact timing of construction and that type of thing. You could spend money first and reimburse yourself, or you could sell the bonds on the front end of the construction cycle and have the money in the bank for the construction process. As part of selling the bonds, we will go out and seek a rating from one of the 3 nationally recognized bond rating agencies. They will essentially give you, it's like your credit score for an individual, and they'll publish a report, and investors will use that to make a determination whether they're interested in investing in those bonds. You'll also be able to use that to then gauge yourself against your peer communities in the region, in the county, in the state. And the report will speak to the use of proceeds, the community's demographics, the sources of repayments, and it's a nice report, and it is made public. Those bonds are then sold through a public process to investors who have an opportunity to invest in the bonds. There is opportunity for residents at the time the bonds are sold, if anybody was interested. They could actually invest in the bonds that would then fund the project. I think I'll probably stop there and see if there's any other specific questions with regards to the process, but there is certainly a process where we go through an independent analysis of the credit worthiness, and then that's kind of factored into the bond sale process.
Nick, at the public hearing that we had in here, there were some questions regarding the timelines. Would there be any information regarding the timelines? Because around here, people want to know if you tell somebody it's going to happen in 3 months and it doesn't happen in 3 months, they think you pulled a fast one on them.
Sure. With regards to timing, I mean, ultimately, I'll defer to Gabe and staff with regards to how quickly you guys will or won't move. If you told me on December 1st the council was going to approve a resolution to sell bonds, I would tell you within 90 days you'll have money in the bank. Okay. And so that's kind of our process, is it's about 90 days from the time you guys say go. But I think that you've got to take a step back from that and really look at the process for building the pool, matching up when you borrow with your construction cycle, and making sure, because you don't want to borrow money and have it be sitting in the bank and you're paying interest on it, but you didn't need it because you're not, to Gabe's point, you're not spending the money because of a scheduling issue with the pool and the swim team or your summer parks and rec season. So those, I think, are the logistical issues that I think staff will work through. But our process is very well defined. When we come before you with the resolution, we'll have a timetable. We stick to it. We don't miss deadlines. And if we tell you you're going to have money in the bank on February 1st of 2020, and that's when you guys need it, I can assure you you'll have money in the bank on February 1st of 2020.
And one of the things that, realizing due to our esteemed legal counsel here, we've already realized that anybody can sue anybody for any reason. As we realized with the RTA, where he didn't have anything to do with that. That's one of the things we can't pin on him. But we thought, Pinal County thought we had it nailed down pretty good, and here we are involved in a lawsuit. We want to make sure that we don't become involved in a lawsuit here with this type of situation. Will the pamphlet have all the correct information that will keep us, I don't want to mention any institute's name or anything like that, but, we want to make sure that we're good to go. We probably, that we won't have those type of issues.
Mr. Mayor, I'm smart enough to ask the lawyer.
There you go.
To know when to ask him to speak.
Thanks, Dave. Mayor, Council, Zach Sakis, Bond Counsel with Sherman and Howard. So as Nick described the process for moving the process along and selling the bonds, the next step, if Council authorizes the election tonight, is we'll begin preparing the informational pamphlet for voters within the city. And that informational pamphlet will contain exactly what it says it needs to contain in the statute, no more, no less. Citizens or interested parties are able to submit arguments, pro or con, related to the election question, and they may submit those to the clerk, and there will be a published notice on how the process for people to submit arguments. Now, anybody can sue anybody for anything. There is a statutory time after the election when a challenge, after the election is canvassed, a challenge to the election has to be submitted within a limited period. So there is some light at the end of the tunnel when that period passes, but again, somebody could try to waive that period or extend it somehow. We can never provide any sort of guarantee that somebody won't file a lawsuit against the city.
Okay. Well, they can file it, but there's a difference. I mean, anybody can file, but then they got to win.
Correct.
Zach, what about if somebody that was on the council put a letter in the pamphlet? Is that, if you did that on your own time, could you do that or no?
Yes, and I've had that in many municipalities, both pro and con arguments submitted by current council members at the time, exercising their own First Amendment free speech rights on their own time to submit an argument through the regular process to do so.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Do anybody want to?
I did have one question for Mr. Dodds. You were saying that about 90 days after everything goes out, we could have money in the bank. When we're selling these bonds, do we sell them all immediately? Do we only sell what we need? And if we make that mark to where we get the pool, we get the road done, and say we only needed $4 million, then can we stop, or is it an all or nothing type deal?
Sure. So, and staff could maybe speak to if, as you get down the road, exactly the process you'll go through. I mean, typically what happens is you'll go through a design process where you'll go through architectural studies, engineering. We call that soft costs, and typically a city can front all of those costs and then reimburse themselves. And in a lot of cases, what we encourage issuers and clients like yourself to do is do all that design work first, get a guaranteed maximum price is what most people will choose to do. And so in that example, you would have, you need $4 million. That was the guaranteed maximum price for the hard construction costs. If you had $200,000 in soft costs in that example, then you would only sell $4.2 million, not the $5 million. And so from our perspective, once you sell the bonds, it's kind of like a mortgage on your house. It's locked in. So if you borrow all $5 million, you have to repay back the $5 million. There could be a process for, unspent proceeds to be used to pay off some bonds early, but that's inefficient. The other thing we would encourage people to do, $5 million is a big deal to Coolidge, but in the bond world, it's a relatively small bond issue. And so, for example, we wouldn't encourage you to do too small sales. And the reason we say that is because there's certain fixed costs to doing a bond financing, and the costs just would eat into the funds available for your project. So we kind of balance it out and manage through all the kind of early design stage process and sell the bonds really when you're getting ready to break ground on the construction side so that you know exactly how much you need.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Good job. I don't, do you have any more?
No.
Mayor,
I
go ahead.
just have one. Gabe, can you kind of explain, maybe for the people that have no clue, the history of our current pool? How it came about, who it belongs to?
Councilmember Walker, Mayor, members of the council. Our current pool, we operate under an IGA with the Coolidge Unified School District. It's obviously on their property. Back in the 80s, we actually went ahead and entered in this IGA, and we built the current pool as you see it. The city's in charge of operating the pool. The school district pays the utilities and the chemicals on it. We split any repair over $5,000. And that IGA, lasts the term, I think it was like a 30-year IGA. We just recently renewed it. So we would obviously go in, if you've seen any of the potential renderings that we showed, we would be expanding on their property, so we'd be using a little bit more of it. So we need a new IGA. We'd increase that footprint there, but we'd be looking to do a similar type of IGA in the school district. Obviously, their contention was that if the voters vote for it, then they're in as well. So that's kind of, I don't know how much of a history you want, but that's kind of.
No, it was perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I know when we go to this, and I know to answer one of the questions we had before was timeline. We didn't go and do any of the soft costs yet because we didn't want to go out and do that. If the voters don't pass this election, then it would be, in essence, wasted money. So we want to wait until we know this is coming, then we can go and handle some of those soft costs and be able to get more of a timeline. And we would only sell those bonds, like Mr. Dodd said, in a timeline where it makes sense to where we can go into construction, get this thing paid for, and get it built, in as quickly as time as possible. I mean, we'd like to have it next year, but like I said, if we have to extend it out because it's the right thing to do monetarily, that's what we'll do as well. So.
Mayor, members of the council, the mayor and council for the last several years have been doing the citizen survey. We know that streets has always been has risen to the top in terms of the citizens' requests. And Northern Avenue, the mayor and I have been talking with San Carlos Irrigation Project about the at least 4 locations where we have water coming up through the irrigation pipe. I was out recently when the irrigation system was operating, and you could see the water bubbling up through the pavement in 4 locations. We just can't do that Northern Avenue improvement without seeing that pipe repaired. And Northern Avenue, in my mind, is one of the significant, most noticeable roadways in the community, where you have all the people that going to the Performing Arts Center or the football games, the other high school activities. And I really think that this improvement on Northern Avenue we just can't speak highly enough about how much that improvement is needed and how it will really make a difference in that neighborhood. The other thing that we did, in addition to your citizen surveys, is when I first started here, we did the general plan update that was done in-house. This room was packed all the way back. Some of you were here, I don't know that all of you, and really the number one request when we got into the parks and recreation element, and even in the early meetings, we were talking about the general plan update. The citizens that attended that meeting felt that one of the highest priorities for Coolidge would be an aquatics facility. It ranked. We gave people little tags of what they'd like to see, and we put it up here on a piece of paper up on the wall, and it received the highest number of votes out of all the input that evening. So these are 2 things that the citizens have in the past felt were very important. I just wanted to pass that on, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Okay,
Are we done?
we're done.
Okay, Mayor, if there is no further discussion, I move to approve resolution number 1907.
I second it.
There's a motion and a second. Norma?
Councilmember Walker,
Yes.
Councilmember Kaufman,
Yes.
Councilmember Hudson,
Yes.
Councilmember Murrieta,
Yes.
Councilmember Navarro,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Henry,
Yes.
and Mayor Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, now we move into the report from the mayor and/or city council. Start down here with Councilmember Walker.
I have nothing, Mayor.
Well, over the weekend, I participated in the powwow event in Casa Grande, and it's the produce on wheels without waste. Pretty neat program, and I think if that's something that we want to discuss and maybe toss out for Coolidge to start participating in, it was kind of a neat event. The sponsors get produce from different stores that instead of tossing them in the garbage and creating all the green gas in the landfills and all that nonsense, while it's still usable produce, it's offered to the public at a very minimal cost. This weekend, the event, it was $12, and I ended up with like 70 pounds of produce. I, of course, can't eat that much, but I have enough family to share it with, so it got put to good use instead of being put in the garbage. If we could, maybe contact some of those folks and maybe see if we could host an event here while they're doing that. I think that would be a great opportunity for the city, especially those folks that are struggling to put food on their table. If you can get 75 pounds of usable produce for $12, that's a really good return on your investment.
Yeah.
So that was it for me.
I have nothing to add, Mayor.
I'm good.
I just wanted to say I attended the Pinal County Alliance annual meeting where Nicola and Lucid was there and gave a little talk. It was really nice. And then the mayor did a great job at the State of the City. And that's it.
Mr. Miller?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, received a copy of this magazine. I know the mayor has commented on social media and other places, but this is the Site Selector magazine. And, of course, the Nicola project here in Coolidge was in the top 20 projects that were listed in the entire country. We were right there with the Googles and Nestle's and Ford Motor Company, and we were there with some big players in terms of the amount of economic development that's going to be generated by the Nicola project for Coolidge. In this magazine, there's a great ad that we would like to thank Pinal County for. They put this ad in here. It says, "Coolidge just got cooler." And it's a really nice little ad. I had this little ad blown up and framed, and we'll put it in the display case out here in the city hall to just talk about this, let people see what it is. It says on here, "Congratulations to Nicola Motor Company on your new facility in the city of Coolidge. Pinal County isn't just the new manufacturing home of the Nicola II, it's the home of wide open opportunity. With an abundance of land and a community ready to help you succeed, there's no limit to what you can achieve in Pinal County, Arizona. Pinal County, wide open opportunity." So it's pretty nice. I thought it was a great little ad and puts the spotlight on Coolidge a little bit more. That's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller, and I want to thank you and the staff for making that possible, and I want to thank the council. I got to watch my language here, but it took a lot of intestinal fortitude years ago to step away from certain ways of doing economic development and taking a chance and going out on our own and doing what we did. And now we're starting to see some of the results of taking the chance when everybody else in a lot of other communities thought we were crazy. Well, who's crazy now? So, nobody knew us then, and now everybody wants to know us. So that's the way it goes. But anyway, a lot of hard work. The council did a lot of hard work. I thank our staff. I thank our council for taking the chance. I thank our citizens for allowing us the opportunity to work for them, and I'm hopeful that it will all come to fruition and we'll do well. One of the people that I thanked at the State of the City, I see sitting here in the audience. She's sitting in the back here. She has blonde hair. I'm going to embarrass her publicly. Irene Higgs with the Sun Quarter MPO. Would you stand up a minute? Come on, stand up. You've done it to me. All right. She's done a lot for this community. One of the big battles that we fought was on Central Avenue regarding the roads with ADOT, and she was right there swinging with us, trying to get ADOT to help us out when things weren't going well, when they'd already done a bad job on the foundation, and then at the end, when they just wanted to leave town, sign off on it. Don't worry about it. It's just Coolidge. Well, she fought the fight with us, and we got it repaired. And I thank you for that. And the next project, and now she's fighting again for the stoplight and the turning signals on Skousen and what is it, 87? We're trying to get a stoplight over there. So they told us no on the initial shot, and we went back, and now we're at least in the game. Don't know if we'll get it on the first go-round, but we're trying. So we couldn't do it without her help. So I thank you for that.
Thank you.
Very much.
I did give the State of the City address. For what it's worth, I thought it went okay. We attended the appreciation banquet that the VFW gave, and the City of Coolidge got an award for, there it is. Read it off there, Rick, if you don't mind. There was some comments on there that I don't remember all of them.
Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States Auxiliary 3713 Patriotic Citizen Award presented to City of Coolidge, given it in grateful appreciation for unsolicited, inspirational, patriotic service to the community through the daily display of our national flag. So that's what you were given it for.
Yep. And they should have said something about our city manager, who got trashed on social media time and time again, who was over there at least twice. Well, once I was there painting with him, but there was another time where I drove by and it was, first it was 100 and some degrees, and then it was raining, and he was out in the rain painting the building, the VFW building, so by himself there. So we do try to help the veterans. We do a lot to try to help them, and despite what people think, Coolidge is a very veteran-friendly community, and the city is, and we do everything we can to help the veterans. We met with the president of Arizona Water Company. I think our relationship will be a little better now with them, so we'll leave it at that and march on. I attended the welcome, the Memorial Day ceremony at the cemetery on May 25th, and welcomed the crowd. I did get to a couple of graduation ceremonies here in town, and one of the things, my last act here today is I was at a graduation party Sunday night at our Coolidge pool, and the lifeguards did a really good job. They were our lifeguards, and so I told them that I would give them a shout out at the meeting, and I don't want them to think that I'm not telling them the truth. The supervisor was Kayla Brady, and the crew was Mercedes, Jaden, Holden, Jacob, Tatiana, Galvin, and Tessa. And so they did a great job. It was cold. They sat up there in their lifeguard garb and froze to death. But nobody drowned, and we all came away in good spirits, so it worked out well.
Froze to death in May in
Yeah.
Coolidge, Arizona.
Yeah. I did get a chance to tour the facilities, and well, certainly if nothing else, we can use a good tune-up over there. It's pretty rough shape. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for coming. I want to thank you guys up here for the work you put in. I know there's a lot of people that think that not much goes on, and this is a pretty easy job. You just show up, you get paid a lot of money, and everybody loves you. But that's not necessarily true, and there is a lot involved in it. And for those who don't believe it, maybe one of these days you'll be sitting up here, and you'll get your chance to have everybody say nice things about you. So, but I thank you all for attending the meeting. I thank you guys for coming down. We look forward to working with you if that's the way it's going to be. I think it will be. I think the people in this community will do what they think is necessary for the youth in our community. And so I look forward to working with you. So I need a motion to get out of here.
So moved. Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. We're adjourned.